Hello, my name is Simon, and I'd like to share some insights into PRINCE2 with you. Basically, you will notice that the screen or the PowerPoint slide says PRINCE2 the processors March 2008. So why am I looking at these slides? Well, I do that in order to convince you that PRINCE2 is really stable and nothing really fundamental has changed. Some terminology has changed, the book has been rearranged and re-edited, but largely the basic concept in PRINCE2 is stable because really in the methodology that's what you look for. If the methodology actually changes too much over time, its fundamentals, then you want to question how sound the logic was in the first place. Never mind, enough of that. Let's now look at the first part of PRINCE2, which is starting up a project. You notice that in the previous versions of PRINCE2, there are initials like SU, and the activities have names like SU1, SU2, SU3. Now all these initials have been dropped. Okay, so remember, the initials have been dropped and you are not supposed to refer to them by the initials, but old-timers, like some of us practitioners, still kind of inadvertently and unconsciously refer to the initials because it's a good old short form. But if you are sitting for the PRINCE2 examinations in particular, please remember that the SU and IP and initials and their numberings have all been dropped because some terminology has changed a little bit, so those initials are not relevant. Okay, now let's look at starting up a project. Fundamentally, you notice that these are the activities that has to happen before you start a project. So before you start any project, there's a quick checklist of all these things to make sure that they are in place. Notice that the first thing you see within the starting up a project process is appointing an executive and a project manager. Why, you might ask? Can't I just appoint a project manager and let him get on with it and do the job? Now, experience has told us that that's not a workable situation because very often when a project manager is appointed and there is no official person who is kind of in charge of him and owns the projects and who's able to commit resources to the project, then the project starts and gets stalled very quickly because very often, in fact, that's an essential part of his job. The project manager will need to refer to somebody for major decisions regarding financing, regarding certain fundamental changes that the users may want. So bear in mind that if you don't have an executive and a project manager, one to make major decisions and one to actually execute the project activities day by day, then you really shouldn't start a project. So if you have a project manager and nobody has been identified or appointed or who has volunteered to be the executive and agreed upon, then really the projects should not be started, right? Now, besides that, we know that of course the rest of the project management team should be designed. Notice the word is design, not appoint. The reason is because very often before you have actually started the projects and gone into a reasonable amount of depth into the strategizing and the planning, which happens in initiating a project process later on, you find that you really are not in a position to be able to identify every single member of the project team. However, you need to decide what are the kinds of roles or responsibilities that are essential in this project. For instance, things like team managers, which are not essential, but which could be anywhere from 0 to I guess literally an infinite number. Although in practice there will be a kind of manageable number of team managers, then that decision should be made kind of early on, perhaps at this stage, if possible. Things like the senior user and the senior supplier, who are both additional roles that complement the executive to make up the project board, should have been kind of considered at this stage. Yeah, but the complete team would most likely not be identified, although at this stage we will try to design the structure of the project team. Yeah? So now preparing the project brief, of course, is a summary of what the project is all about. The includes the next one we call defining the project approach. The project approach needs to be decided kind of early on. We because that affects how you plan the projects. Yeah? Approach means things like, should you do it in-house, should you outsource it, should you use subcontractors, and a whole bunch of combinations of all these variable factors. Yeah? And lastly, of course, once all these fundamental decisions have been made, you would need to plan the initiation stage, which happens next, because after starting up the project process, initiating a project is the next thing that a PRINCE2 project manager would execute. That one we will leave to another session, because we try to keep these sessions small and in bite-sized chunks so that you don't fall asleep. Right? So until the next time we meet again, it's me, Simon, signing out. Bye bye. See you again.